Regina Opondo is Senior Communication Principal at Kounkuey Design Initiative in Kenya and part of an exciting team of urban designers and action researchers who have worked on some exciting community driven urban interventions across Nairobi and other cities. This episode explores interesting and exciting urban interventions that are happening in Kenya and revitalizing green spaces in Nairobi's informal settlements. Regina, welcome. It's great to have you on the show. Give us a brief introduction to yourself and Kounkuey Design Initiative, or KDI.
All right, so my name is Regina Opondo. I work for Kounkuey Design Initiative, where I'm the senior community principal and I also co-lead the Kenya office. So Kounkuey Design Initiative is an urban community development, design, construction organization working in Kenya and in the US. Started in Kenya about 16 years ago, 17 years ago. And we want to advance equity through the built environment. And so we combine various aspects of programming, which include building and designing, research and testing, advocacy and education, and planning and programming as our areas of trying to bring about this transformation. But priority is working with communities, having them at the front seat in terms of identifying what the challenge is, identifying the solution, and then working with them to co-design the solution, construction of a solution, if it is a physical site, and then leaving the site for them to manage as well and run their programs and activities around that, which can be economic activities, social activities, etc.
Kibera is an informal settlement riverbank upgrading that makes small community parks and spaces while reclaiming rivers. Tell us more about that.
So, like many informal settlements, Kibera, of course, is a site of extremely challenging conditions, but also a site of innovation, ingenuity, and low impact living. And it is home to more than 300,000 people and plays quite a key role in Nairobi's informal economy and affordable housing market. So it experiences very many challenges, but there are also very many opportunities. And I think the resource of having the people there with their local knowledge and their skills allows us to do some of this work. So some of the challenges they experience include effects of climate change events like severe and unpredictable rainy seasons, which often brings flooding, destruction, disease, and large impact on broader ecosystems and economies. The Kibera Public Space Project, which is our flagship project as KDI, is a direct response to the disenfranchisement and injustice found in communities like Kibera and often repeated by the government in some of their informal settlement development policies and initiatives. But it also doubles as being an opportunity to bolster climate resilience, flood resilience, and provide some protection to the river, or at least a way for the community to live with the river. So the Kibera Public Space Project is something we've been implementing for the last 17 years, starting with our first site in 2006, which was working with the community in Silanga, Soweto, part of Kibera, also in Langata constituency, to reclaim Nairobi Dam. And from Nairobi Dam, then develop a productive public space, but also put in place flood mitigation. And from there, we then started with the People's Park. And that site has since grown to have several functions that provides services to the community, economic opportunities to the members of the community group running it, but also protection, I think, for some of these communities around there, for flooding that would happen. There's a river that pours water into the dam there. So that's one example. So over the years, we've worked on several public spaces, and most of them are along the Ngong River. And so there'll always be a component of trying to protect the river, trying to protect people from flooding when flooding happens, but also seeing how people can coexist with the river.
Regina, there must be many lessons learned from all these experiences. What are these lessons that you've learned, and can these lessons be applied to, in the future, enable these projects to be kind of done quicker?
I'm not too sure if there's even a quicker way because I think one of the lessons we've learned is that sometimes it takes time, but it's important to take that time to ensure that because you're working with several stakeholders, there's a lot of consensus building that has to happen. And so I think the first lesson for us is that it will always not happen as quick as you anticipate. Sometimes if you're lucky and all the conditions required fall into place, then you can move a little bit faster. It has been, over the years, it has gotten easier for us in Kibera because we have built a reputation, a relationship with various stakeholders from local government, local administration, to community groups. But we're finding that as we move to other spaces, we don't have that advantage of having been there before and being known. So it's taking us a little bit longer than we had started getting used to in Kibera. But I think things that are key for us, the three principles that we rely on when we're doing our work, number one is participation. And that is important because if you do not have people actively involved in identifying the problem, identifying the solutions and prioritizing the solutions and then building it and running it, then you run into challenges in terms of ownership, maintenance, but even creating conflict between the communities. So for us, the first ingredient that we feel is very important is participation. Then the second part is integration. So integration of various stakeholders, but also integration of various disciplines. On staff, we actually have people with different types of training. So we have landscape architects, we have engineers, we have planners, we have community organizers, we have human rights workers. And you have to bring together all this knowledge, including the local knowledge of the community, to come up with a solution. So integrating all these different disciplines, these different backgrounds, ensuring there's inclusion, and also remembering that the community is also quite diverse. It includes structure owners, the local administration, so just integrating that. But there's also integration at the level of integrating purposes, mixed use purposes to make a space more productive. So being able to put in place something that the problem might be flooding, and so you want to do flood mitigation, but beyond flood mitigation, what else can you do? If it is possible to put a laundry pad with a playing ground that then allows children to have a space to play, their mothers can watch them as they wash clothes, and then a socioeconomic angle that allows the group to make money. So maybe services that they get money out of, which then also allows them to maintain the site because they have resources coming in, but can also improve livelihoods. So integration becomes the second important thing. Then the third is network change, and that one we've learned over the years. So connecting, being able to connect these different sites to each other, the communities that are involved, the leaders that are involved, because it then means that one site might have something and the other one doesn't, and they can collaborate with each other and support each other. And it could be business, it could be revenue for one, but it could be a service that another group does not have. And so putting those together. But network change also includes looking at the wider community and beyond where you're working. So looking at academia and how do we learn from the work that we're doing and share those learnings with academia, which can then be shared with future professionals that work in the built environment. How do we work with state agencies so that some of these lessons can be picked up and scaled up into government programs? So for us, this has become the model of how people-focused design can enhance our community's socioeconomic status, holistic well-being, strengthen cohesion, and give agency. The other lessons that I think we've learned, just outside, I think the principles that we have figured out works for us, is that it is not possible to engage in this kind of work without engaging in issues of power and politics. It's all well and good to come and want to do infrastructure and development, but recognizing that some of those touch on political or power play. So if I pick a challenge that we've always struggled with is being able to put in place these public spaces that then require water to provide some of the services, either to run sanitary blocks, just to provide water that the community can drink. But it's been a struggle to get legal water connection, and getting legal water connection is a multiplay of various actors in Nairobi in particular, which means that then we have to engage in some advocacy work that looks at how people can get connection to potable, water to their sites, even to their homes. So while we'd like to think we are apolitical, you cannot do design without engaging in the power play. So that's one lesson that's been critical for us. We've learned it the hard way sometimes, but sometimes it works very well. Yeah, so I think those are some of the lessons I think that come through for me.
How exactly do you measure the impact and success of projects like these?
Yes, so I talked about one of our approaches being about research and testing. And the research and testing component, besides allowing us to test new methodologies, also allows us to collect data around our impact. So we do have some sense of the impact in terms of quantitative data, but we also are able to speak to, I think, qualitative data from our interactions with the community. So the first is that over the last 16 years, the Kibera Public Space Project has grown from one public space and reclaimed public land to a network of 11 community-managed public spaces in Kibera. And of course, with every site, there's been learning and testing of new innovations. Since 2010, we can confidently say that KPSP has almost doubled the amount of formal public space in Kibera. We can speak to increased access to sanitation, play, and gathering for over 125,000 people. The Kibera Public Space Project also supports climate resilience. There's about 520 meters of riverbank that has been remediated, and then contributing to the local economies. So maybe about over 100 new jobs and creating a network of 253 community leaders. So we see them as sites of innovation and opportunities, which then also allow us to continue adding other layers of development, which would include we have a project called Living Data Hubs, which is piloting access to internet in 5 sites. So putting in place internet infrastructure, which then allows communities within an 100 radius of some of the public sites that we are testing the internet to access internet. But then I think also just being able to influence academia, professional practice through our lectures, through the papers that we publish, through our presentations, even having people come and attend visits. And looking at recent changes, the French Development Agencies is supporting a project called the Urban Fabric Initiative, UFI, in Nairobi. And we were lucky to get the grants to be able to do this work. And this work is being embedded in a national government program called KISIP, the Kenya Informal Settlement Improvement Program. And it is allowing us to bring our KDI approach into a national government project. So we'd like to feel that there's a bit of influence in how government does their participatory design and construction. And I think it's a great opportunity. We can't take full credit for being able to influence this program, but I feel that somewhere somebody might have noticed we're doing something right and the approach works. And so we're watching this space and we hope it's something that we can demonstrate at a larger scale than what we have been doing today.
This is an incredible opportunity and a great first step to implementing more of these initiatives and integrating county and municipal planning and capital investment ecosystems.
So for us, this is part of the first step. I think one, because we have been interacting with them, I think being able to get champions who can also see value in the process that we do is an opportunity to scale up because they're able to take it into their spaces in government programs and make suggestions about how to do things better, and where possible, invite us even to demonstrate that. So I think the multi-stakeholder approach where you interact with some of these individuals who could become your champions in those spaces is an opportunity for scaling up. And this particular project that I've talked about, the Urban Fabric Initiative, is a huge opportunity, I think, to scale up because one, is taking us outside of Kibera into 3 new settlements that we have not worked in before. It also is an opportunity because we're working with other partners who traditionally don't do the design and build component, but have been doing the planning and the community engagement. So it's sort of an opportunity to do some skills transfer, which hopefully they can also be able to pick up and continue within their spaces. And I think the fact that whatever was started in Kibera, similarly is being practiced by our office in Los Angeles and in Coachella. So that's also one element of scaling up, I guess, on a global level. And we've also had the opportunity to do work for government agencies. So we've supported in the past, I think, the county government of Kisumu, county government of Kakamega, county government of Meru in some participatory planning and design work. So if those are picked up and even if they're implemented by government, then I think those are elements of scaling up. The other opportunity would be we've also been engaging in developing a framework that can be used by practitioners, including government, so professionals in the built environment, as well as professionals in the public service domain, called Integrated and Inclusive Infrastructure Framework, 3IF. And you can find more about it on www.3if.info. And this framework, we want it to be a tool that hopefully, if it becomes institutionalized through our partnership with the Association of Architects of Kenya, then influences how we built environment professionals approach upgrading initiatives, especially in informal settlements. So it's trying several things, hoping that they pick momentum, recognizing that that momentum may also take quite a long time. But slowly by slowly, haba na haba tunajaza kibaba. So slowly by slowly, we will fill the pot.
Regina, in closing, what other exciting initiatives are you involved in, and what is KDI's approach to solving problems?
We have a project called Rivers and People Planning. And so from the work that we've been doing over the years, building the public spaces, recognizing that there needs to be a more concerted effort to planning along rivers and planning with people, figuring out their interaction with the river so that then you're able to put, if it's infrastructure in place, if it's urban agriculture, if it is economic things, whatever you plan for and put in place is something that communities can interact with the rivers. So in future, I think my colleagues are better versed on it, but it's something we're doing, starting with Ngong River, which passes through Kibera and Mukuru, and I think could even contribute to Nairobi River remediation work. So maybe next time, if we get invited again, I'll get one of my colleagues that's doing work on that directly to speak to that. But what I think is important in overcoming challenges, I think first is recognizing that the authority are the people that live in the communities. And once you recognize their authority and appreciate their local knowledge and their great understanding of what the challenges are and what possible solutions could be, I think that's a good starting point. And then engaging them from that perspective as partners so that you work on something together. I think that is good. I think being flexible is also important. Flexible meaning that you will have your own timeline, but community engagement, you come up with all sorts of conflicts, all sorts of things. So being able to be flexible around time, readjusting designs so that it speaks to more people or it incorporates a lot of things. So being flexible, I think, even to talking to people that you'd never consider detractors, especially if you're speaking, about people with political authority or local authority, at some point you're going to have to engage them. And so being open to be able to engage those people without compromising your principles, I think is something that's always good to do. Sometimes also it's important to be able to, we say, split to succeed rather than divide and conquer. So recognizing the different talents in the teams that you have or in the communities that you're working with, and so that you send the right person to engage the elected official, and a different person to talk to somebody from planning, and a different person to talk to the community. You all have the same game plan, but you know who would be able to speak their language better to get everybody on board. Or yeah, so just having the design component work very closely with the community engagement component, the planning component working very closely. I mean, community component cuts across, whether it's planning, designing, all this must work together. And then I think also just being honest about the challenges you're facing. I think being honest with the community, if funds have run out and you can't complete a design the way it was envisioned, let's just be honest about it. It could be difficult, it could have blowback. Let's be honest about it. Um, I think what else? What else do we do in overcoming challenges? I think consultation, wide and far, being able to put together professional advice with, I think, social skills, social advice.
A big thank you to Regina Opondo for this insightful conversation on Future Cities Africa.